Hello everyone, it's great to see you back on my channel. Continuing the dramatic storyline of the ill-fated couple, single mother Ly Hoài Ca and police officer Hùng, today we dive into a special episode full of unexpected twists and turns. In the whirlwind of crime, family, and justice, who will be the one to pay the price? A shocking secret from the past is suddenly exposed, triggering a chain of uncontrollable consequences. A chase in the dark. A confrontation between duty and the heart. And once again, Hoài Ca finds herself torn between love and betrayal. Will this woman, who has endured so much pain, be able to make the right choice? And Hùng, does he have the courage to face the truth and protect the one he loves until the very end? All will be revealed in today's episode, where every decision could change fate itself. Watch until the end and don't miss a single moment, because what's coming will truly surprise you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next thrilling episodes. After a long time wandering and searching in vain, Du finally received an important clue. A local villager said they had once seen a strange woman, pale-faced and with a bewildered look in her eyes, often sitting blankly in front of an old wooden house at the edge of the forest. Without hesitation, Du went there. The house was silent, its tiled roof aged with time, nestled between rustling bamboo and the faint scent of countryside cooking smoke. There, Hoài Ca was living with a farmer and his child, strangers who had opened their arms to care for her in her most fragile moment. But the woman he saw was no longer the Hoài Ca he once knew. When she saw him, she seemed startled, stepping back as if frightened. Du called her name over and over, his voice trembling, his eyes burning with hope. But all that came was silence, and a soft question from the woman's lips. Who are you? Hoài Ca's memory had completely vanished. The psychological trauma from the past had wiped it all away. She didn't remember Du. Didn't remember Hùng. Didn't remember that she once had a small family, once held her little son close and whispered, "No matter what happens to me, I will protect you at all costs." To the farmer and his child, Du was nothing more than a strange man who suddenly showed up, saying unbelievable things, demanding to take Sister Hoài away when she was still fragile and unsettled. They were suspicious, cautious, and didn't want any more trouble brought into the peaceful life they had built. And Du understood, he didn't blame them. He looked at Hoài Ca sitting there, eyes lost, her brow furrowed as if trying to recall something her mind couldn't reach, and all he could do was stand in silence. His fists clenched, trying to hold back the pain lodged in his throat. He had found her, but couldn't bring her back. And he realized, he alone was not enough. So before leaving, he left behind only one promise. I will return. With the one you love most, and with the child who still calls you mother every single day. As soon as he returned to the city, Du couldn't wait a single moment. He rushed to find Hùng, carrying the news both men had been desperately hoping for. I found Hoài Ca. She's alive. That sentence left Hùng frozen. He stood there, speechless, eyes reddening. All those months of searching in vain, all the moments of hopeless despair. And now, just one sentence was enough to reignite the fire deep within his heart. Without hesitation, Hùng and Du hit the road. Their car raced through the night, like it carried the wild, pounding heartbeat of a man who once lost the love of his life in silent sorrow, and now had the chance to see her again. When they arrived and saw Hoài Ca standing at the doorway, Hùng couldn't hold back. He stepped forward, his steps trembling, then pulled her into a tight embrace, holding her like he never wanted to let go again. Ca, it's me. I've been looking for you for so long. But Hoài Ca just stood still. She didn't answer. She didn't return the embrace. Her eyes stared back at him, empty and distant, like a stranger. She tilted her head and gently asked, I'm sorry, do I know you? Those words were like a blade driven straight into Hùng heart. He froze, still trying to smile, still clinging to the hope that she'd recognize him, that a flicker of memory might return. But no, only confusion in her eyes, and a subtle avoidance from a woman being forced to feel something she no longer understood. Hùng was heartbroken. Deeply. But he didn't blame her. He didn't resent her. He understood, the fact that she was still alive was already a miracle. He knew, if he pushed too hard, she would retreat even further. So he softly said to the farmer, and to himself, "I won't force her to come back. I'll wait. Tomorrow. I'll bring Tony. Maybe, when she sees her son, she'll remember." Then he quietly walked away, carrying a bleeding heart, but still holding on to a flickering hope. That someday, in a misty morning or under a sky full of stars, Hoica would remember him, would say his name, would reach for his hand, just like she used to. The journey back from the countryside where Hoica was living was a heavy one for Hung. He remained silent the entire ride. Her vacant eyes haunted his mind, the eyes of the woman he had once loved with all his heart. A hug, met only with the stare of a stranger. A dream of reunion, shattered by a cold, empty reality. But before he could collect himself, his phone rang. The stern voice of his superior came through. "Hung. Report to headquarters immediately. There's a major development in Hoica's disappearance. Your presence is urgently required." Without delay, Hung rushed to the station, though his mind was still in turmoil. What he didn't expect was that the next shock would be 100 times more devastating. In a closed-door meeting, his superior handed him a sealed confidential file, freshly unsealed by the bureau. Hung flipped through the pages, and his heart nearly stopped. The file stated clearly, the person who hired the gang to assassinate Hoica was Hung's own mother. A name he never imagined would be listed as the mastermind. A signature he recognized instantly. A bank transfer statement with an enormous sum of money. And the final blow, a voice recording of a cold, calculated conversation, utterly devoid of maternal warmth. His mother, once the embodiment of honor, discipline, and principles, was now a fugitive. Wanted nationwide. She had fled to the northern borderlands. A place where fog and shadows could swallow anyone whole. His superior looked at him, stern yet sympathetic. "From this point on, you're no longer in charge of this case. You're her son, and that makes things too complicated. Lieutenant Nam will continue the investigation from here. Your task now is to stay composed, and avoid direct confrontation with your own mother." Hung didn't answer. He bowed his head over the conference table, his fists clenched so tightly it looked like he might crush the file. The pain of losing Hoica had yet to fade. And now came another crushing blow. The person who destroyed her life was his mother. The sky inside him collapsed. On one side, the woman he loved. On the other, the one who gave him life. All his beliefs, ideals, and family bonds, shattered into 1,000 broken pieces. It felt like the whole world had collapsed. Hung sat motionless in the empty room. The harsh fluorescent light casting pale shadows on his face. He didn't cry, but his eyes were shattered. As a police officer, he had faced every kind of criminal. Walked through blood-soaked crime scenes without blinking. But never, not once, had he prepared himself for the possibility that his own mother could be the mastermind behind an attempted murder. Even worse, the target was the woman he loved more than life itself. And their 2-year-old son, Tony, could have lost his mother forever. All because of one woman's blind hatred. Hung remembered clearly. His mother had never accepted Hoica. She believed Hoica wasn't worthy. A woman with a complicated past, a life too rough, too raw. She hated the way Hoica dared to look her in the eye and defend their love. As if every word was a dagger cutting through her pride. The pride of a woman who had ruled her family with an iron will. But Hung had never imagined. That hatred ran so deep. Deep enough to hire killers. Deep enough to erase the existence of a mother on the run with her child. Hung clutched his head, his whole body trembling. Everything good he'd ever believed in, now crumbled to dust. He once told Hoica, "Even if the whole world turns its back on you, I'll stay." Yet when she fell into her darkest abyss, He hadn't been able to protect her. Hadn't even realized that the hand pushing her over the edge was his own flesh and blood. A wave of guilt rose in his throat. Not just his mother's fault, but his own. For loving her, but not being strong enough to shield her. He recalled yesterday's moment, when she looked at him with cold, distant eyes, as if they had never shared a life, never shared love, never had a child. Had the pain she endured been so great that her mind chose to lock away everything? Would things have been different if he had come sooner, held her tighter, called her name at the right moment? Hung clenched his fists. In the middle of guilt and torment, a single thought flickered through him. A vow that had never left the bottom of his heart. You can forget me, but I will never forget you. And I will never forgive myself if I let you hurt again. That night, Hung returned home to silence. He stood frozen in the middle of his cold, empty living room. No warmth of family. No belief left to hold on to. Only the ticking of the clock, and the darkness slowly swallowing his heart. He didn't turn on the lights. Didn't have the strength to. He collapsed into the chair, hands tangled in his hair. As if he could somehow pull an answer from the chaos inside his head. But before he could catch a breath of peace, a violent pounding echoed through the door. Open up. We're here to collect a debt. 3 tattooed men stood at the threshold, faces like stone. Their voices cold as steel. Your mother, Madam Knock, borrowed nearly 12 billion dong from us. Here are the land deeds. Now she's gone. And you, as her only heir, you'd better pay up. Hung went numb. 12 billion? She mortgaged the house, the land his father left behind? All of it, to pay these men. The same men she hired to destroy Hoài Ca. They slammed down stacks of loan documents, property certificates, bank receipts, and contracts with third-party intermediaries, all bearing his mother's signature. There was no coercion. No ignorance. She knew exactly what she was doing. And she did it anyway. Not out of desperation. Not for survival. But to bury the truth, to make sure no one ever discovered. She was the one who gave the order. Hung felt himself falling apart. A police officer once praised for his ideals. A son who once proudly believed his mother to be a woman of intellect, virtue, and authority. Now, stripped of honor. Stripped of his home. Stripped of every last ounce of faith. He had nowhere to lean on. Couldn't return to the force, he'd been pulled off the case. Couldn't face Hoài Ca, not when she had lost her memory. And might never remember the man who once held her hand through every storm. And then there was Tony, his 2-year-old son. Waiting by the door every evening. His eyes lighting up as he called. Daddy. How could Hung answer him? What words could he say to explain? What strength could he summon to keep going? Everything was collapsing, piece by piece, crushing Hung in silence. He sat on the front porch, staring at the garden where his father used to plant trees every morning. Where his mother once served tea and chatted with neighbors. Now, it was just a plot of land, soon to be seized for debt repayment. 12 billion. A number too surreal to grasp. Hung flipped through the land deed, the loan contract, the transfer documents, all legally signed, notarized under his mother's name. No loopholes. No room for dispute. No other way, but to sell everything. Just to preserve a sliver of dignity. But it wasn't the loss of a house that scared him. It was the thought of losing face, in front of Hoài Ca. That girl once trusted him with all her heart. She held his hand through countless storms. Carried their child alone through hard times when he was on duty. She had been broken, simply because he had trusted his mother too much. And failed to see the evil festering within his own family. Now she had lost her memory. No more anger. No more tears. No more love. Only a hollow stare. Looking at him like he was a stranger. And that hurt far more than if she had screamed at him. You did this to me. He wanted to say sorry, but didn't know where to begin. He wanted a second chance, but had nothing left to rebuild from. Each time he thought about selling the ancestral home, the place holding all his childhood and family memories, just to repay a debt rooted in a crime. It felt like he was burying himself with the very shovel his mother had handed him. His dream of being a righteous police officer. His dream of a small family with Ly Ca and Tony. His dream of protecting justice and love. Now all that remained were shattered fragments. Blood-stained, debt-ridden, and broken. He asked himself, will Ly Ca ever forgive me? Will Tony grow up and still call me Dad with pride? Or will the two of them walk away too? Just like everything else in my life has? Hung tilted his head toward the sky. Eyes bloodshot, yet no tears fell. Because the tears were gone. All that remained was shame. And a heart punishing itself, day after day. After countless sleepless nights, Hung finally made a decision. He went to see Du, the only person still close enough to Ly Ca, and calm enough to help him make the right choice. Two men. Each carrying a different kind of pain. They sat across from each other in a small, dimly lit room. The flickering yellow light cast long shadows, and their conversation cut deep, like a blade into old wounds still bleeding. Hung took a long breath, then spoke the truth. The truth he had buried inside ever since reading the investigation file. It was my mother. She hired them. She's the one behind it all. Du froze. For a moment, rage flashed in his eyes. A fury long buried but never extinguished. He stood up abruptly, fists clenched. How long have you known? Do you even realize? If I hadn't found her in time, Ly Ca could have died without a trace? Hung didn't defend himself. He bowed his head. I know. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to understand. I wasn't part of it. I'm living in my own nightmare. Silence. Heavy as stone. Then Du sat back down, slowly, wearily, and let out a long sigh. I don't hate you. I hate how the truth always comes too late. And the one who suffers most is always her. A pause. And then, Du said something Hung never expected. Tony is my son. The word struck like a blade through Hung's chest. But he didn't react. He simply looked at Du. With tired, hollow eyes. No jealousy. No resistance. Only quiet heartbreak and acceptance. Du continued. I don't feel safe bringing her back to you right now. Not when your family has become her deepest scar. I once thought about taking both of them home. But then I realized. We can't keep dragging her through one change after another. Especially while her memory is still lost. The two men locked eyes. No longer rivals. But kindred souls who had once loved, and lost, the same woman. Keep her at the farmer's house, Du said. She's used to that place now. It's peaceful. And far enough from the city to be left in peace. You and I will take turns visiting. And I'll bring Tony to live there too. Maybe, being close to her child will awaken what's been buried in her memory. Hung nodded. They agreed to give the farmer's family a sum of money. Enough to care for Ly Ca and Tony without worry. A small way to make amends. That night, as they left the old cafe. The one that once echoed with the laughter of youth. Only two long shadows remained on the sidewalk. Silent. Still. But both men carried the same silent promise in their hearts. Whether she remembers them or not. They will protect her. At all costs. Time passed slowly, like the quiet dusk settling over the countryside. Ly Ca, the woman once thrown into the dark whirlpool of schemes and scars, was now slowly coming back to life. In a peace she had never known before. She remembered nothing of the past. Not who she loved. Not what she had done. Not the pain she had endured. All she knew was that here, she had a home. A small wooden house beside a rice field, where the rooster crowed each morning. The scent of hay drifted through the noon air, and lullabies floated softly into the evening. And now, the bright, innocent laughter of a 2-year-old boy named Tony, who people said was her son. At first, Hoài Ca only watched in silence. The little boy would call her mommy with such pure affection, his tiny arms wrapping around her neck instinctively. And something inside her gently softened. It wasn't memory, but it was a connection. Invisible, trembling, and tender. She held Tony. And then she cried. Not out of pain, but because, for the first time in her life, she felt like she mattered. The young farmer, gentle, sincere, never asked her about the past. He simply fixed the roof, cooked warm meals, and brewed ginger tea for her when the wind turned cold. Between them, something strange began to form. No rush. No name. Just glances that lingered a little too long. Hands that brushed while carrying dinner. And a quiet flutter in her chest when she saw him carry Tony under the rain. Her heart slowed down. In the most tender, conflicted way. She didn't allow herself to go further. Not out of fear, but because she knew there was still a hollow space inside her, once belonging to someone whose face she couldn't remember. The farmer understood. He knew this woman carried a deep wound, a secret too heavy to speak. So he kept his distance, even when he wanted to be closer. Because if she chose to stay, he wanted it to be her choice, not a consequence of amnesia. Not because she had nowhere else to go. The farmer's mother and son treated Hoài Ca as their own. They called Tony their grandson. Every meal shared. Every midnight chat. Every trip to the village market. They lived like a family. And Hoài Ca, though her mind was blank, began to smile more. Began to feel her heart no longer lost. She didn't have answers to everything, but she had a place she could now call home. She had people she could call familiar. And most of all, she had a reason to stop running. Hoài Ca sat quietly on the wooden steps, Tony sleeping peacefully in her arms. The last rays of sunlight streamed through the rooftop, painting warm golden streaks across her hair, as if time had paused. Softly, tenderly. In the distance, the young farmer was silently stacking straw just brought in from the field. He lifted his head and glanced toward the house. His gaze paused when he saw Hoài Ca looking back at him. Neither said a word. They simply nodded. A silent greeting. A feeling still too fragile to name. Inside Hoài Ca, something stirred. A distant melody. A fleeting image. A name on the tip of her memory, not yet recalled. Maybe tomorrow she would remember everything. Or maybe she never would. But for now, she knew she still had somewhere to return to. And a little boy sleeping soundly in the arms of his mother. Behind her, the first breeze of the season whispered through the trees. Somewhere out there were people waiting for her to remember. Words left unspoken. And wounds that no one had fully forgiven. Their story is not over. Perhaps this is only the beginning.
Hello, xin chào tất cả mọi người. Mọi người ơi, thì hiện tại mình vừa hoàn thành xong tập tiếp theo của nội dung câu chuyện của mẹ đơn thân Ly Hoài Ca và cảnh sát Hùng á mọi người. Mình hy vọng là video của mình sẽ mang đến những ý nghĩa nhất định cho người xem, và mọi người có thể đóng góp ý kiến nhiều hơn cho những video tiếp theo của mình. Và nếu như mọi người yêu quý kênh của mình cũng như là yêu quý các nhân vật thì mọi người cũng có thể để lại bình luận ở dưới phần bình luận nha mọi người, để đóng góp ý kiến và ủng hộ cho các nhân vật. Nếu như mọi người yêu quý mình hay là yêu quý kênh thì hãy đăng ký kênh, sau đó bật chuông thông báo lên để không bỏ lỡ bất kỳ video nào mọi người nhé. Và đừng quên rằng chúng ta có hẹn với nhau mỗi ngày. Theo giờ Việt Nam thì mình sẽ lên một khung giờ cố định là 7 giờ 30 phút sáng. Ở bên giờ mọi người thì có thể nó rơi vào tầm khoảng lúc 17 giờ tối, 18 giờ tối gì đó. Mình hy vọng là mọi người sẽ ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo.